Welcome back to Artificial Evidence. I am your host, Owen Carver, and as always, the algorithm knows. In the summer of 1991, Victor Gaines walked into a small gas station in Franklin, Tennessee, bought a pack of cigarettes, and walked back out into the night. That was the last confirmed sighting of him alive. Victor was a man who had spent most of his life in the background. At 53 years old, he worked as a manager at a manufacturing plant, lived in a modest brick house on the outskirts of town, and kept to himself. He had no wife, no children, no close friends to speak of. People who worked with him described him as polite but distant, a man who came in, did his job, and left. But when Victor did not show up for work on August 12th, it was not immediately a cause for concern. His boss figured he had taken the day off and forgotten to call. But when he did not come in the next day, a co-worker decided to check on him. They drove out to his house, knocked on the door, and waited. No answer. The car was still in the driveway. The blinds were shut. Something did not seem right. That evening, police were called to do a welfare check. They knocked, no response. When they tried the door, they found it unlocked. What they found inside was strange. Victor's house was still, untouched, almost frozen in time. There was no sign of a struggle, no forced entry, no immediate indication that anything violent had taken place. The living room looked normal, furniture arranged neatly, television remote on the arm of the couch. The kitchen had a few unwashed dishes in the sink, as if he had planned to clean them later. In the bedroom, the bed was unmade but otherwise ordinary. But then there was the dining table. On it sat a single sheet of lined paper, placed neatly in the center. A note, written in Victor's precise handwriting. It was short, barely 2 sentences. I have gone away. Do not look for me. It was signed with his full name. No explanation, no farewell to anyone, just a blunt statement. But what was most unsettling was what lay next to the note: his keys, his wallet, and his wedding ring. This was odd for 2 reasons. 1, Victor was not married. He had been decades ago, briefly, but that had ended quickly and quietly. And 2, he never took off that ring. Even after the divorce, he had worn it every day. People who worked with him assumed it was just habit. Some said maybe he still carried a torch for his ex-wife. Others thought it was simply an old man's way of holding on to something familiar. Whatever the case, Victor had left it behind. And that did not sit right with the investigators. For weeks, police searched for any trace of him. They checked hospitals, shelters, bus stations, airports. Nothing. It was as if he had stepped out of his home and vanished. His bank accounts remained untouched, his credit cards unused. Even his social security number showed no activity. Then came the first real clue. 3 weeks after his disappearance, a call came in to the Franklin Police Department from a motel in Chattanooga, nearly 150 miles away. The manager had been flipping through local news reports when he saw Victor's face. He recognized him immediately. The man had checked into the motel under his own name the night he disappeared, paying in cash for 1 night. But when the housekeeper went in the next morning, he was gone. Gone, but not without a trace. His room was in perfect order, nothing out of place. The bed was neatly made, the bathroom spotless. But left on the nightstand was a second note, written in that same careful handwriting. This is the last time. Stop looking. Again, it was signed with his full name. The discovery only deepened the mystery. Why would a man vanish without reason, leave behind his personal belongings, and write a note telling people not to search? And if he had planned to disappear completely, why use his real name to check into a motel? Police pulled security footage, but it only raised more questions. Victor had arrived alone, carrying a small duffel bag. He went into the room and was never seen leaving. The only thing that might have been a clue was a single frame, captured at 3:17 in the morning. A man standing outside Victor's door. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark jacket. His face was turned away from the camera, and within seconds, he walked out of frame. Who was he? What did he want with Victor Gaines? And why had Victor disappeared that night, only to leave behind another cryptic message? For years, nothing more was heard about Victor Gaines. His case grew cold, files collecting dust, the mystery unsolved. Then, in 2004, 13 years after he had vanished, his name appeared in an unexpected place. A woman in Birmingham, Alabama, called police to report a suspicious man loitering near her building. He was older, thin, with a graying beard, wearing a faded denim jacket. When officers arrived, the man was gone, but left behind on a bench where he had been sitting was an old, tattered leather wallet. Inside, an ID card, worn, faded, the name Victor Gaines. The address listed was the same home he had left behind in Franklin over a decade earlier. Police searched the area, but the man had vanished. They checked security footage, but there were no clear shots of his face. Had Victor been alive all this time? And if so, where had he been? In the years since, the wallet has remained the last known clue in his case. No body has ever been found, no confirmed sightings, no further evidence of where he went or why he left. But if he was out there that day in 2004, one thing is certain: Victor Gaines did not want to be found. Thank you for listening to Artificial Evidence. If you have not already, be sure to like and subscribe. I am Owen Carver, and as always, the algorithm knows.